Hello and welcome to Into the Light. I'm your host, Edina Mauvana. Today we have Ava Mariana. Ava is a certified menstrual educator, a counselor, and symptothermal method instructor. She's passionate about women's health and human rights, and she empowers women to embrace their menstrual cycle as a guide to optimal health and self-awareness. I'm so excited to have you, Ava. Welcome. Thank you for being here today.
For having me here. I'm so excited to start my week like this.
Yeah, we're getting it started. And I mean, I was just getting educated before the show, and I know we were talking a little bit before this, but talking about women's health and human rights and the work that you're doing and how everything is based off of really empowerment and femininity and everything right now to empower women. And gosh, I'm just so excited. I mean, I feel like that's been passionate work that I've been doing for many years. And I'm just so excited that you combining all of these different areas like human rights with menstrual
Mhm.
cycles and femininity. It's really amazing. So I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of things, but we'll get it through.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about what got you into this work and how
Yeah.
and this specific symptothermal method you use, but really what got you into this work in the first place?
Yeah, so that's a long story, but I mean, as many people that do this kind of work, it all starts with personal experience. So when I was young, let's say around when I was a teenager, so I got my first period, and then for 3 years it was all right, nothing major, whatever, normal. But of course, there wasn't a lot of information. Like it's just your parents just tell you, oh, you're gonna bleed, and then you use a pad, and that's pretty much it. You don't really get, especially I'm from Mexico. I'm from Mexico
Oh,
City.
yeah.
I was born and raised in Mexico, and there was a bit of a taboo, and like, there's so much like shame and stigma. Like you go to school and you have to hide your pad and don't let anybody know that you're on your period and all this stuff. Especially when I was growing up. Now it's a bit
Mm.
more normal. There's still a lot of stigma, but it's getting better. So yeah, it all started like that. So I didn't have much information, so just whatever, just living life. And then around 16, I started having really bad cramps, but like
Mhm.
bad. Like I would faint, I would stop going to school and to like doing my things. I would not go to a party because I was just, scared, and I was bleeding a lot and I didn't know if it was normal or not. Like I didn't know anything. So I lived like that for like 5, 6 years, I would say. And I would go to the doctor, and it's just the first thing they say. It's like, oh, it's normal, whatever, or take the pill. This is like the easiest way. And I'm like,
Yeah.
since I was little, I was very intuitive, thank God, and I've always had this, I don't know, this like extra sense of just feeling stuff, and I was never convinced to just take the pill like that without even having information of like I didn't even know that there was like side effects, but like it's just the thing that you feel. Like it's something, it's medicine, it has to have something. So I never wanted to take it, and every time I would go to the doctor, it would be the same thing, the only option. And I'm like, no. So she did give me at the time some arthritis pills just because the regular painkillers weren't doing anything, like the ones that you would buy over the counter. So I was like, well, I have to live, I have to go to school, I have to do my life, so I'm just gonna try that. It's not the pill, like the contraceptive pill, but
Mhm.
it's just something. So I started taking that and it would put me to sleep. So I was like, no, there has to be another way to this. Like I didn't really give up, and I was really tired of living like that because it would be every month. Like it can't be normal. So I started just doing my own research, and little by little the internet got, bigger, and I started growing up, and I went to study biomedical engineering where I took some anatomy classes, physiology. So I started getting more and more into the body and really seeing the hormones and the all the chemistry and everything that happens inside the body, and it just amazed me, and that started, I think, my curiosity on that side. And then coincidentally, after some years, I would say like 3 years after starting that, 2 years after starting that major, I switched because it was not my thing. Like I liked it, but I just switched majors to like entertainment, business management, whatever. But then a year after that, one of my best friends just came to us and she's like, hey, like, guess what? I discovered this method and that's amazing. It's called the symptothermal method, which like I don't know why we didn't know about because it's so cool and you can like avoid pregnancy because at that time we were all avoiding
Right.
pregnancy. So it's like you don't have to take the pill and this is like it's as effective as a pill and like wow
Mm,
and you get to know your body so much and your cycle and like you guys need to try this. But like to be honest, it sounded so good to be true that
yeah.
we didn't really pay that much attention. And then but something got into me. I was already researching for my cramps and all that and trying
Hmm.
literally everything I could. So it's like maybe if I get to know my cycle, like I would actually get to the bottom of what's causing me so much pain. And then so yeah, I was in a group of 9 because that was all like on the WhatsApp group. And then on a group of 9, I was I think the only one that actually paid attention to that. So I started reading a book about fertility awareness, which changed the whole like that just changed my life. And I was like, what is this? And that just
Oh,
opened a whole new world of like possibilities and information. So that was basically how it started with the method itself, combined with my other journey of trying to get rid of the cramps. And
yeah.
then for the cramps, I stopped using pads because I was researching that they would cause even more fibroids and like and make you bleed more than you should because it's they have so much like toxics and they're made of like reused materials and like oh my god there are so many things. So I started using the menstrual cup and that was like my first switch into something better and that just literally decreased my period for a day. And I had some fibroids and then I went back to the doctor after months of using the cup and they were gone. So I was like,
Mm,
what is this, you know?
wow.
So I don't know, it just started going through all these changes and then I took the method with an instructor as a student and I took it with my now husband. Back then he was my boyfriend. We took it together because it's for couples really.
Yeah.
Like if you are with someone with a partner, it's super recommended to take it with them. If you're single, you can, of course, you can take it for yourself and just get to know your body. But if you're with someone, they should also know because it's fertility is 50-50. Like it's not a just a woman's job to take
Yeah.
care of it. So yeah, we took it. That changed our lives forever. And I just like something just clicked. It was like my mission was delivered to me. Like this is what you need to do in this life and you need to teach this to other women.
Wow.
So that's basically how it happened. And after
Yeah.
studying it, I decided to get certified to teach it. And that's
Amazing.
what I'm doing now.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great. So that explains a lot, like where you came
Yeah.
from with the met having your own battles with menstrual cramps and learning about this method. And so I love that you did it with your partner, like your husband,
Mm-hmm.
and he was your boyfriend. And that was kind of my first question because anytime you're like engaged in sexual activity, like you are there is it more like you're limited because you're on this special method or you're like your partner like what kind of limitations does it bring to be on practitioners of that method versus just mindlessly taking the pill every day and then pretty much being able to have sex whenever you want ideally. So like
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm curious about is how much work is involved with
Mm-hmm.
really staying committed to that because pregnancy is a big fear for everyone and then
Mm-hmm.
also just other things too. And you don't want to be like scared of having sex, right? Like that's the
Yeah,
worst
no,
problem to
it's
have, right? Yeah.
exactly. No, that's actually the other way around. That's what I want to like not have. Like
Yeah,
I
you want to
want
be
to make you
empowered.
not have fear.
Fear, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think so just to understand how it works, so the symptothermal method is based on your daily biomarkers. So basically our bodies alone they just function perfectly if you're healthy, of course. And they have a way of telling you what's going on. It's like if you get sick and you start feeling weird, it's like
Mm.
that's the way that your body's telling you that something's happening. So that's the same thing for fertility. You have signs that let you know that you're approaching the fertile window. So basically with the method, with the symptothermal method, what you do is observe these biomarkers every day, because we change every day. As with women, we're cyclical and we have, every day is different. So you have to observe it every day. So that's when it comes what you're asking, like it does require an everyday practice,
How do you reserve,
a
how do you observe it?
habit. Yeah,
Yeah, like
so
how do you
it's
check in?
three things. So the first one is temperature. So basal temperature, corporal
Hmm.
basal temperature. So it's the temperature that you have when you wake up, when you're like resting with no movement.
Yeah.
Then it's the cervical fluid, cervical mucus that we call that's another like the whole a whole thing, because when we're, at least me, when I was little, I saw something and I was like, ew, what is this?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
a sticky mucus that you get in your panties and you're like, you don't even know what it is. That's the
yeah.
most important fertility sign that we have, and like we
Mhm.
don't know. So
Yeah.
that's another one that we observe, the mucus. And then the cervix, that it changes throughout the cycle, like it can go up and down, it can get soft or hard, it can open and close. Like we don't know that stuff. So those three things, you observe it every day, and then when certain rules you with that chart and certain rules, you figure out where your fertile window is. You can open it and close it exactly and have 99.6% effectiveness on the method if you use it correctly. So what it requires really is just, it's a new habit. So I do say it's not for everybody. As you said, taking the pill can be just mindlessly doing it. Like
Yeah.
we're more used to taking pills in
Yeah.
general for anything. So
Yeah.
it could be easier just because it's like whatever, and you don't even know what's happening. And for some women, it can be no side effects and everything's perfect. But for others, it's bad, you know?
Yeah.
So it does require to be aware, which is what I think it's not for everybody. Because if you're not willing to take responsibility on your own body and get to know yourself, and you're more on a, I'm busy with other things and I don't want to worry about that, then it's not for you. And it's
Yeah.
true, you know? So yeah, it's for someone that's really just that wants to know, like to learn about their body, and that is willing to put the time, which is not much. It's like 5 minutes a day, which I
Yeah.
think everybody could do,
Yeah.
because there's time for other stuff. Like you could have time 5 minutes a day to take your temperature and like write it down. And
Yeah.
there's apps and there's like thermometers that you sleep with. Like there's a lot of gadgets and tools and
Hmm.
that can help you. So that would be the main thing. Just it's when you wake up, you take your temperature or you sleep with this thermometer, and then it takes it automatically. And then it's either on a paper chart on or app, and
Yeah.
you chart every day, and you observe your mucus every time you go to the restroom. Basically, that you clean yourself, you observe if you have mucus or not, and then I teach you how to interpret that and
Mm.
what that means, and if it's a good quality or a bad one, if you're ovulating or not, and all that stuff. So
Wow.
yeah, it's not for everybody, but it's
Yeah.
easy and everybody can learn it. And I think women, like they get scared because it's like so different and so like unknown, that of
Yeah.
course we fear the unknown. But
Yeah.
once you start learning and you see that you have that power of like knowing yourself so much, to the point that I'm just literally sitting working and I can feel like my mucus going down, or like, oh, I think I'm ovulating today. Like literally that feeling, it's just it's priceless.
Yeah,
Like
that is because you learn a
wow,
lot
yeah.
about your own patterns and your ups and downs and how it's,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start to get tuned into what you need to do at those times of the month or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of women are detached, like we just want to go on autopilot and not, and just kind of suppress knowing about
Yeah.
all of the ins and outs of these details. But yeah, it's so important. And I love how your work connects it with, you know, women's health and human rights. And also you talk a lot about as using it as an awakening tool, and also like healing ancestral trauma. Like it sounds like a
Mm-hmm.
very powerful, it's more than just something you do every day to avoid being pregnant or whatever. Like it's a bigger, there's a lot more going
Yeah.
on here with what you're trying to educate on, right?
Yeah. So that's interesting because yeah, like you can use it more in the science side if you want, and if you're not into spirituality, that's fine. The science is there. But then
Yeah.
you have this other part where spirituality comes on, and it's a perfect combination of both, I would say. Because it just creates so much awareness that you start seeing life in a different way. Like even if you don't want to, it just happens. And it makes you
Yeah.
aware of your habits because you have to wake up at the same time every day to take your temperature, so that you have to be responsible with your actions. So if you go out and you sleep late, you go to sleep late, your temperature might be affected. So it does take responsibility, and that's what I'm saying. It's not for everybody. If you want to keep partying every day of the week and drink so much alcohol, and then, well, it's not for you. Definitely not for you. But if you're
Mhm.
willing to change your habits and really just live a healthier life, it doesn't mean that you can't go party and there's going to be one day, one weekend that you went to sleep late because you were working or whatever it is. But then you go back to it. You go back to the good habits and you keep doing it and keep consistent.
Yeah, it sounds like a good way to keep yourself like on a healthy lifestyle balance overall. Like it just creates that
Mm-hmm.
carving out the space for that to be important work to be done. And I think it's also important that you're doing a lot of coaching and helping women through this process, right? So especially it sounds like if someone's really new to this or they don't know what they're doing, can you tell me a little bit about how you work with the clients every day, or what your program looks like
Mm-hmm.
when they're learning about how it all works?
Yeah, so basically now I'm doing it's 3 classes. They're long because it's so much info that you've
Yeah.
probably never seen. So the first time is always like a mind blow. But then I always keep them recorded so they can watch it all over again, because you literally need to watch it like 2, 3 times at least to get like the basic. But it's just anatomy. It's nothing like out of this world. But yeah, so it's 3 classes, and then after that, I'm always in contact. They can write to me whenever via text or email and ask me questions, whatever it is. And then every month I check when they're done with the cycle. They send me a photo of the chart, and then I check it and I give feedback to them. And I'm like, oh, you did apply the rules well, or you made a mistake here, or it's like this or like that. So then my goal is that my students become autonomous and they can use the method without my help, even though I'm always going to be there for them, that they
Right.
can feel safe, because it's a lot of fear at the beginning. Like it's amazing how we don't trust our intuition and our observations. It's like literally you're doing science every day. Like you're observing and you're analyzing and but it's like we don't trust ourselves. It's like, no, but what if I think I saw this mucus and it wasn't this mucus? It's like, if you're seeing it, it is. Like, trust yourself. So it's a lot of work with that. Like, that's
Yeah.
probably the hardest for me, to work with people, to make them trust what they're observing, to make them feel like they can learn something, to not feel like, oh, I'm stupid, no, I'm blocked, I can't learn this. It's like, or no, I'm forgetting, I'll never be good at this. Like, no, like it's a lot of like also like self-esteem, and it's a lot of work. But yeah, so I'm always with them, whatever doubts they have. And then it's for 6 months. I accompany them for 6 months. Every month we check that. They have one call in person, like video call, to see the first chart, like just very, very detailed. And then the rest is just like they send me, I send you feedback, and then we're always in communication.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so what kind of, I know you mentioned like with yourself, you had the cramps, and I know other women who can't take hormonal birth control for a lot of different reasons. Some
Mhm.
have like blood clots, like all kinds of different things that people go through, PCOS. I don't know. There's all kinds of things in our
Oh
systems
yeah.
that are preventing that. So where do you see people like when you're starting out working with them? Like what is their current like situation usually, and then where like how long do they go through, because I know you mentioned 6 months, and then what kind of transformations are they getting when they're able to be empowered this way and have control over their self without the hormones?
Yeah, so the good thing about the method is that it can be used on any circumstances. Like, so literally, if
Oh
you're
yeah.
like in postpartum, if you're breastfeeding, like there's so many things that people don't know, and you can use it throughout your fertile life. So that's what I really like about the method. You can use it when you're a teenager and like your cycles are all over the place, irregular, regular, whatever it is, you can use it. So that's really good. So I get all kinds of clients. Mostly it's just regular cycles, or some
Mhm.
irregular with PCOS. I get a lot of that. So yeah, so they come, some of them have some knowledge, basic knowledge, or at least that, oh, I need to know how my cycle works. That's something, because some
Yeah.
people just don't know anything. So I
Right.
get a bit of everything. And then, but I would say the common denominator is that everybody feels, yeah, like everybody ends up feeling a sense of like, I don't really like empowerment because that's like a very cliche word, but yeah, just like empowered and like really like with a deep sense of knowledge and trust on themselves, which just evolves into other parts of life. And then it's like, wow, like I can feel like I can go to the doctor and like not just trust him completely on my body because I know what's going on. And like I have this information for 6 months and I already know my patterns and I already know what's normal for me or what's not. And like, I'm not gonna let someone else take control over my own body because I know myself. So it's just like this sense of like, yeah, fear goes away. It's just like, I know that if I don't get my period, it's not because I'm like broken or like I'm pregnant. Like, no, you're just seeing your temperatures and it's like, oh, okay, it's because I ovulated later, so therefore this happened, or my progesterone is lower. And it's just so much info that they feel so like at peace. It's just
Yeah.
amazing. That's what
Empowered.
I get all the time. Yeah.
That's really good. And I like how you also, especially with so many of us aging and going to doctors and getting more and more just prescription medication and just being in a mindset to not even question that. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's so important to start looking at alternative health, holistic options. It gets you on the right track to start looking at more and more things like, oh, you have hormonal imbalances. Maybe we should address that with like your nutrition rather than just a thyroid
Mm-hmm.
medication, right? So it's kind of like that, right? It's
Exactly.
yeah, it's really important work because
Yeah.
sometimes we're like our reproductive system is sending us these signals and healing it is the best thing for us. So it opens so much of this, like you said, empowerment. And I think even like when you talk about sacred feminine energy and healing, and even like you
Mm-hmm.
said like ancestral trauma, how do you feel like it relates on that level? Like do you feel like people are
Oof.
women are healing through a lot of different like layers of ancestral trauma when they're doing this work?
Oh yeah, heavy. But first I wanted to touch on something that you mentioned, that it's
Yeah,
not like fighting with the system and being like, I'm not going to the doctor anymore because they don't know what they're saying. It's
right,
like, it's not like that. It's just like a balance. Like I'm gonna still use the allopathic medicine and I still have to get my PAP and I
right.
still need to know what's going on. But at least I have like what you were saying, like, oh, maybe I already know that my problem is with progesterone and I go with that information and that gives me like a whole new level of power on myself and like decisions. So it's just
Yeah,
like, yeah, like coming, because some people are too extreme or too radical, where it's like, no, no doctors or
right.
all natural, or like I'm not against anything. I feel like we have to find a good combination of both, and doctors should definitely get more into this stuff because I have to refer people sometimes because I can do so much. I'm not a doctor in the end.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then it's so hard for me to find doctors that are into this or that are not going to invalidate this or that
Mm,
think it's like the rhythm like method and that it doesn't
right.
work. It's not. It's just, yeah, it's complicated. But then on the other side of the ancestral thing, it's just amazing because imagine like when your mother is born, when a woman is born, like the women already have older ovums that are going to have like throughout their life. So that means that when your grandma was pregnant with your mom, so it was like your mom already had you in there. So you were already in your grandmother's womb. So that's
Yeah.
just crazy to me. Like that's crazy because whatever your grandma went through, it's in you. You wanting or not, or believing or not, it's a fact. Like that's there in the genes and in everything. So it's just, yeah, it's a lot. And sometimes we don't even know what they went through, or we don't even have contact with them, or they died, or whatever, and we have no idea. So I feel like it's when you start bringing awareness to your cycle, it's just naturally you naturally open that door, and things start coming. I like to also mix because sometimes a method can be thought like very scientific, as I was saying, but I really like to combine both. So I do like uterus healing meditations, and it's very simple. It's just like imagining your uterus and like how do you see it, like what color, if you touched it, like how would it feel. And then sometimes just traumas start coming, even for like your own traumas that you went and you don't even know that you went through some traumas because it was normalized. Like if someone just touched you without your permission and you thought it was normal. In Mexico, it's super common. Like you're in public transportation and
Mm.
people grab your butt, and that's like it's normal because we all go through that, but it shouldn't be. And there's just so many things that you go through and you don't even realize. So I like to really combine both because I feel like it's just that's how life is. It's a whole thing. It's not just health, or we tend to see everything isolated, like it's uterus isolated, and it's not. The uterus is combined and it's next to many other organs in the pelvic cavity, and you can't really isolate one thing. It's all like it's a system and everything's connected. So I really
Yeah.
believe that just getting to know your cycle really helps on, even without realizing, to start healing a lot of ancestral trauma.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and it's so important because I know even you mentioned like human rights or activism work, like female reproductive rights and knowledge and information. And I mean, I think like you said, you're from Mexico and there's other countries in the world which they're they're dealing with a lot of challenges. And I also can't help, I don't know if you've seen imagery from like what's going on in Gaza and in Palestine, and like the women don't get
That's
feminine products and pads. Like it's just there's a lot of nightmare situations involving women and our reproductive systems and what we have and don't have access to, like not having access to knowledge or products or health. So do you feel like that's a big part of your work with your, are you bringing in like an activist humanitarian component into what you do as far as like trying to empower women from where you came from and all of that, or is that a big part of your mission work?
Yeah, so I don't think I've done it that much yet because I'm more focused on the educational side, but
Hmm.
education is still a tool for that. But I am starting to do that more. One of my dreams is just go to prison and like just give them talks and like get sponsors so they can get products. Because imagine if for like a woman that lives a normal life, it's hard. I can't even imagine for
In prison.
that are migrating or that are in jail or in poverty or whatever. So I really want to do something bigger, but like I really want to do something big, like get people together and like make something impactful. But that's something I'm working on because it's not that easy either. There's a lot of stigma, as I said. And I really want to go to like communities like in Mexico, like indigenous communities and teach them about the cycle and all that. But I'm starting on that path.
Yeah, what about getting, because you mentioned the menstrual cup as being, is that your preferred solution rather than the tampons and the pads, which are hard to get and like they're creating, that's a problematic product in the first place? Is that what you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's something that I'm like figuring out myself
Yeah,
because it's the easiest way and the cheapest too. If you want to help in a big scale, you would just think tampons and pads. But
tampons
the
and
truth
pads.
is
Yeah.
some of them are really toxic.
They're,
So it's either we find it would be great, like at least that's something, at least they have a product because some people don't even have
yeah.
that,
And
you
you're
know?
like, you're bleeding and you
At
have any.
least it's a matter of not really like getting fanatized with anything and just like really just trying to make it a little better than it was. But at the
Mhm.
same time, maybe there's another way, and maybe we can teach them to make their own cloth pads. But then where are they gonna wash them? Do they have access to water? Do they have? So it's a lot of different things because menstrual poverty is another topic where you really have to take that into consideration. If you give a menstrual cup, are they going to be able to, do
Yeah,
they
to
have
use it.
access to a toilet where they can wash it and sanitize it? So it's a lot. And sometimes it might just be pads and tampons because that's what they can use. And but that's still better than not having anything and just like being isolated. Like there's still a place in, I don't know, Nepal or somewhere where they still isolate women and they put them in like a and they don't talk to them and they don't eat and they can't go anywhere. And so it's like, why is this still happening? Like, so you got to
Yeah.
really see the context and what you're dealing with. But I think in any way we can totally help and make a difference, however we can.
Yeah, one step at a time, right? And you're doing it
Yeah.
piece by piece. So I love that. And I love that that there is this method, the symptothermal method, and that you see the value in it and are instructing others. And just it's the first step. It's so important to have that knowledge. So that's awesome. Tell me, I know I'm going to link things on the episode where people can find you, but if someone's really interested in this work or like they want to start maybe working with you or learning more about what they can do about their hormones and the periods and all that, what's the best place for them to find you? I know you have a website and some social media, right?
Yeah, so yeah, they can find me at havaf.com. I have
Uh-huh.
it's first is in Spanish because I do most things in
Yeah.
Spanish, but then if
Oh,
you
okay.
go /en, or you can just click the translation there, it's automatic. It'll take you to the English website. So HAVVAFEM, havafem.com. And
Yeah.
then all my social media is like that too, have a fem. I have a free checklist, so a free menstrual health checklist to see if your period is healthy or not. That's in English and Spanish. So you can just go to my link in bio on my Instagram and you can find it there and download it for free. And then I'm
Awesome.
gonna start doing more things in English as the need is just there for both languages. And if I'm bilingual, I can start getting into that too. And then I do private consultation, so counseling, so one-on-one. If you have a very specific thing that you want to check, we can work on that. And it's like, depends on what you need to work, we'll figure it out and make a package for that. If it's a one time or if it requires 3 months or 6 months, we can work with that. And then I'm building a network to just, as I was telling you, just refer people when I can't help, because I feel like that's also very
Right.
important to just recognize what you can do and what you can't. And I'm all about helping. So if I can't help you, I'm going to make sure I have someone that can. So just that. And then I'm working on just, yeah, I'm going to open a group in May for the method in Spanish. But then if I get enough people interested to do it in English, I can open one in English soon too. Or just, I can also do it one-on-one. Depends on the need too.
Yeah. Do you help women who want to actually get pregnant or like, because I
Yeah.
know,
So
yeah,
yeah, that's
that's a
another
big
whole
part.
thing because the
Yeah.
method is for either avoiding or achieving. Because you
Achieving.
just recognize your fertile window and then you decide what you want to do with it. So it also
Yeah.
helps, yeah, it also helps achieve pregnancy, which is now it's going to be April, last week of April is Fertility Awareness Week. So it's a big
Yeah.
thing. And I see a lot of cases where women are just struggling so much to achieve pregnancy and they go through all this like treatments and expensive things and like
Mm.
suffering and like it's just such a hard journey and they don't even know how their cycle works. So I would really just encourage women that are struggling with this to learn the
Yeah.
method and then try that first, or at
Try that
least
first. Yeah.
learn and then go do the other stuff, but with the knowledge that this will give you, because if you go and just, like I was saying, just live it out to whoever, but you don't even know how your cycle works, then that's a bit harder. And just because of
Yeah.
mental health and all that, it gives you so much like peace when you know what's going on.
Yeah. And you have some control over what you like having an impact if you want to have a baby and you have fertility
Mhm.
coaching and you feel like you want to try that before like more extreme method, like for getting in vitro
There's
or
a
whatever.
lot, yeah, there's a lot of cases when women don't are not even having sex on their fertile days because they don't know when they are. So
Where
that
they are.
starting
Yeah.
there, like there are a lot of cases like that. So
Wow.
yeah, I would really suggest always trying natural first before spending money, time, effort, and everything that brings. It's hard.
Totally. Totally. All right. Well, I love that. I'm so excited, Ava, that we got to learn a little bit more about all of this work you're doing and that you shared so much information. I feel like I learned a lot now and I know what to do. So I know where to go if I have,
Yeah,
if I need
of
to learn
course.
how to get my cycle in order. Cause yeah, even me, like my sister gave me a menstrual cup, but I haven't, I'm guilty as charged.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's hard. It took
I
me
didn't yet
2 or 3
learn.
years, so don't worry. It's even me, like, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
journey.
But I switched to the organic
That's the
products.
first step, exactly.
Yeah, sorry, excuse me. Oh my gosh. But yeah, anyway, any final thoughts or words of wisdom or things you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, just pretty much summarizing everything, knowing your cycle really, it can really bring you a lot of amazing things. And I think it's a good way to start getting more in tune with your body and like aligning mind, body, soul, and everything. It's a really good way to do it. And it won't hurt you. Like the only thing that will happen, it'll make your life better in every way. And like you come to a point where you start planning your life around your cycle, and that is amazing because we live in a patriarchal society where everything's around men and like
Oh
their cycles
yeah.
and their times. And it's not like that. We don't have the same energy in every phase. We have different, every phase has a gift, and but if we don't know what it is, then we can't use it, and we live against our cycle and not with it. So I really
Mhm.
invite all women to tap into that and start learning, because it changes your life like
Yeah.
completely. It can bring you so many good things.
I
So yeah.
love it. Yes, we need to get in line with those natural rhythms and cycles with what's
Hmm.
happening with the moon and everything. And we're getting so much more awareness on how that's impacting our physical
Hmm.
bodies. And so, yeah, the more in alignment we are with the feminine energies and the feminine calendar and individually as well as collectively, that's when it starts to have a big impact. So, yeah, I love that so much, Ava. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited that we got to talk a little bit more. I'm going to have all the links under the episode for where people can find you. And if they want to do this work, I definitely encourage them to find you not only your website, but also your
Yeah.
Instagram and all of that as well. So I'm excited.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for opening these spaces for this information. I think it's very valuable what you're doing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.